do the 2 setup rounds from Brioche stitch to get both colors on and the pattern texture set up. We're going to do 2 rounds that repeat over and over again, and that's what's going to create this ongoing pattern that has one color prominent on one side and the other color prominent on the other side. But otherwise the texture looks the same on both sides. So let me show you how to do those 2 repeating rounds on my little swatch. Okay, let me show you how to do those 2 repeating rounds on my little swatch here. Now remember, after we did the setup rounds, we left it with the first yarn that we used for that first setup round, which was purling. We left it in the front because purling has the yarn in front. Second setup round, we left the yarn in the back because it was a knit round and knitting has the yarn in the back. So I'm going to just move my marker over, and now I'm ready to do the first repeating round. So we're going to repeat always a round with color 1 purling and then color 2 knitting. 1 purling, 2 knitting. And how do I know what I'm up to? Well, it's not quite showing the pattern yet because we're just starting, but you can still see what to do, because if you look here, our single stitches are the color 2. The single stitches are the color 2, and then of course our yarn over slip stitch is always going to be 2 different colors together, but our single stitch here is the second color, and even though we don't have the columns set up all the way yet, you can see it's a knit stitch. So we finished a knit round because we have all those knit stitches, and now we're going to work a purl round. So the purl round begins with slip 1 with the yarn over, and that first stitch is just loose there because I had just joined my yarn for my setup round, so I can just tighten it up, but later on you won't have a loose stitch there. And then I'm going to do the purl. It's going to be purl 2 together, and it's those 2 stitches that are overlapping, the previous yarn over and the previous purl. So purl 2 together. And then I'm going to do yarn over and slip 1 combo, purl 2 together. And you can see now my single stitches are the other color, and my slip stitch combo with the yarn over is in between, and then a single purl, and you can see it's a purl because you've got a purl bump. So how do I do that with my right hand? Okay, before I slip the stitch, I'm going to bring the yarn to the front, and it probably is there already if you were purling, but sometimes I tend to bring the yarn to the back automatically. It's like my default position. Okay, now before I do the purl 2 together, I complete the yarn over by bringing the yarn over the top of the needle, then to the front between them. And now I'm going to do my purl 2 together. And as I said, I'm not really great at purling with my right hand, but you get the idea. And so what happened is it comes out just the same as if I were doing it in my right hand. So the hand you hold the yarn in isn't important. It's just important to get that yarn over and slip stitch together and then purl 2 together. And again, this is the first round of the main pattern, and we're slipping purlwise because we're not doing anything to those stitches besides moving them from one needle to the other. We want to, with the yarn over, slide that stitch to the right needle and then purl 2 together. So let me go all the way around, and then I'll show you how to do the second round of the main pattern. Okay, here I am at the end of the round. I just want to show you how to finish this first round of the main pattern. So remember, we've been doing slipping 1 with the yarn over to create those pairs and then purling 2 together. We've done that all the way around. I'm up to those last 2 stitches. So remember, I left this other color, left my other color in the back. It's still there. That last stitch of that other color might have gotten a little loose. That's okay. We can just tug on the tail to tighten it up. So we're not going to switch to it yet. We're going to finish the round. So the first thing I'm going to do is that yarn over slip stitch combo, and see how that stitch did stretch out of shape, and that's okay. And so what happened there is I dropped my yarn, but it was hanging over like that, because if your yarn, falls down or whatever, what happens at the end of the round is you want to do a purl 2 together of that last purl stitch and that last yarn over of the second color. So if you somehow dropped it or whatever, make sure that it's overlapping. Your second color is overlapping that last purl stitch, and then in the back, you can hold it with your finger or tape it to your knitting, whatever you need to do. You'll get a rhythm for this after a while, But you can see where I said it's really important to pay attention to do those last 2 stitches. Okay, so let's look at it again. I just undid it. So my yarn's going to be in the front, and I'm going to slip it, and I create that last yarn over slip. I can tug my second color to tighten it up, and now what I need to do is that last purl 2 together. So if it's not in the right place, I want to make sure I get those 2 lined up like that. My old color is the purl, and the one that's going to be the new color for the next round is hanging there. My yarn is to be in the front, and then I do that last purl 2 together, and then I can slide my marker over, and I'm going to leave this yarn in the front. I'm going to start the second round of the main pattern, and again I can tug that again a little if I want to tighten it up. So that was the round 1 of the pattern, and you can watch that last part over again if you need. That's the really trickiest part of this, is that last stitch of that round. Okay, so now I'm going to be doing the knit 2 together first, and here I am going to do knit 2 together, and again anything that gets loose, just your tails, probably give them a tug, and then yarn to the front and a yarn over and slip 1 at the same time, and then knit 2 together. So this is really the same as that second setup round. We've already got our 2 colors and everything joined, and we're just going to go around and around. Whenever we come to the yarn over and slip stitch combo, we're going to knit, and notice we're knitting with this red, and we're knitting into a red stitch and a yarn over, and so we can start to see those knits stack up. So that's one way to tell what you're doing. Slip it and yarn over, and then knit 2 together. And so that's our second row, and you can see the pattern starting to show up. So the more the pattern shows up, the easier this gets. And usually when I'm working on things, I suggest when you put your knitting down, you stop at the end of the round, but on this I don't. I would stop right here if I was going to put my knitting down. There's no way I can be confused about which color to use, because I'm in the middle of the round and this is the color I'm working with. There's no way I can be confused what side I'm on. Remember, when you pick up your knitting, the working yarn always is on the right needle, and then I can see that I'm doing knits with this color. So stop in the middle around on this as opposed to other things. So you just go around and around and around, repeating those 2 rounds, and that's what builds up the pattern. Now I'm at the end of the second round of the main pattern, and that's the knit round, and I'm going to show you the last 2 stitches. So I have that knit 2 together right there, and then I'm going to have this yarn over slip 1, and again bring the yarn to the front, slip that last stitch to the right needle, and then drop that second color for the knit round and leave it in the back of the work, and then pick up the first color again for doing the purl round. Okay, and here we are ready to start that purl round, and it's going to begin with the yarn over slip 1, because we have that single stitch there, and then we've got the 2 that we always do, the knit 2 together or purl 2 together with the 2. And so let's just start that again, and you can see there's the purl bump, so you know you're going to be purling 2 together, and the stitch that's actually a stitch on the needle is this gray color, and so that's the color I'm working with, so you can match up what to do and just continuing on. So I just wanted to do a few more stitches there of that next round so that you can see how after you get the few rounds done and you get your tails all tightened up and everything, but after you get those first couple rounds done, so you can see your columns of knits on this side, and when you flip it over to the other side, you can see the columns of knits with the other color starting to form. So once you get the first 2 setup rounds and then the first 2 rounds of pattern in place, you can really see it, and it gets easier, and you can just relax into the routine, and it becomes a very relaxing pattern stitch to knit. So that's it. I hope that was helpful for you, and you can now enjoy working this brioche pattern as much as I do.